Well, let's talk to Tim Bale, who's Professor of Politics at London's Queen Mary University. Good to see you, Professor. Welcome back to the programme. So we're almost certainly going to see an election in the UK this year. There has, of course, been endless speculation over the timing of it. Will that, though, make any difference to what most people think is a foregone conclusion?
Well, I guess if you're a Conservative MP, you may hope that something will turn up between now and the probable date of the election, which is the autumn of this year. And that, I think, speaks to some concern on the part of Tory MPs when they hear that the Prime Minister is thinking of going early. I think when you're 20 points behind in the opinion polls, that looks rather a gamble.
So if there is a big loss for the Conservative Party, what could that mean for the future direction of it?
Well, I mean, if you look at what's happened to the Conservative Party before, when it's lost elections very badly, for example, 1997, what we tend to see is the Conservative Party double down on the approach it takes initially in opposition, and that normally means moving towards, if you like, the authoritarian right of the political spectrum. It then takes a couple of elections before they really wake up and smell the coffee, as it were, and realise that they have to move back into the centre in order to win back those voters who have deserted them. So if the past is any guide to the present or indeed the future, then I would expect the Conservatives probably, depending on how badly they lose, to be out of power for at least a couple of terms.
And what about Rishi Sunak himself? This will be the first time he goes before the electorate as Prime Minister after his two predecessors were forced out of office. And he's not exactly been a unifying figure, has he?
No, he hasn't. He's had big party management problems, in part because the policies that he has pursued has satisfied neither side of his political party. So, for example, if we take the issue of immigration, in particular this plan of the government to deport asylum seekers to Rwanda, on the one hand, it strikes many on the so-called soft centre, if you like, of the Conservative Party as too harsh and possibly in conflict with international law, and on the other hand, for the hard right of the party, it doesn't go far enough in taking radical action to do something which they believe has to be done in order to win the party a general election.
Well, you mentioned that issue of immigration. It's obviously been a really big one, but actually when it comes to what voters are looking for, is that the kind of thing that people care about, or is it more likely things like the cost of living crisis and how well off they feel?
Well, I mean, I think if you look at how immigration polls with the public, it has risen in importance over the last year or so. And I think that is in part because the government has spent a long time talking about it, as have their friends in the print media. But if you look more closely at the polling, as you suggest, in fact, it's nowhere near as important to most people as the economy, the cost of living and inflation on the one hand, and the state of the National Health Service and other public services on the other. So it does remain somewhat of a mystery why Conservative MPs see immigration as some sort of magic bullet. I think voters have rather more pressing concerns at the moment, although it's not something, immigration, that they care absolutely nothing about. That's true.
Tim, great to speak to you. Thank you for joining us today. That's Professor Tim Bale from London's Queen Mary University.